The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to the Star Sport podcast. My name is Dylan Mangan of the Southern Star and I'm joined again this week by Star Sport reporter Sean Holland. How are you, Sean?
Very good, Dylan.
Great stuff. Before we get into things, just give a quick message from our sponsors as the Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with our friends at Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, where your bank really does matter. Choose credit union, choose local, choose community. Now, the N71 is bound to be extra busy this bank holiday weekend as West Cork takes over the capital for a weekend of finals in Pairc Uí Chaoimh. On Saturday, there's Newcestown Senior A hurling final replay against Blarney. We'll have more on that later. While on Sunday, we have a tantalising double header in store. First up is the Premier Intermediate final. Bantry Blues, they'll be looking to go one better than last year with a victory against Cill Martra at 1 p.m. Then the big one at 3 p.m. 10 years after the last championship win, Castlehaven take on Nemo Rangers in a much anticipated final. We have former Cork footballer Haulie O'Sullivan on the podcast today to give his take on the weekend's finals, as well as the County Board's decision to move that Senior A football final between Newcestown and Dohenys to the weekend of November 11th or 12th. It hasn't gone down too well with Dohenys, but we'll speak to Haulie about that later on. But first, Sean, there's only one place really to start, and that is with the senior final this weekend. As I mentioned there, Castlehaven, they're taking on Nemo Rangers in that final. And you spoke to former Cork footballer Colm O'Neill about one player in particular, the captain, Mark Collins. He's been doing it for years for Castlehaven and he seems to be getting better than ever.
Yeah, Colm and myself spoke during the week. I was asking Colm about Mark, pretty much kind of looking at the person himself and the footballer. Colm is great time for Mark. Anybody that knows Mark knows what a genuine humble guy he is, and Colm would really like to see Mark lift the cup on Sunday, but he gives them every opportunity to beat Nemo. Mark obviously is a driving force behind that team. He's playing a bit deeper now in his role with Castlehaven to what he used to be up in the half-forward line. He's pushed back the field a small bit to link the play, but Mark, like Damien Collan, Brian Hurley and Michael Hurley were there 10 years ago when they won, and they'll be looking to repeat that again this week, and they'll be very influential players if the Haven are going to overcome Nemo.
Yeah, absolutely. You can read that interview in this week's Southern Star, so it's definitely worth picking up a copy. You've also done a preview of the match, and kind of the headlines there is that the Haven's attack is relentless. Nemo's defence, on the other hand, is miserly. So how can Castlehaven overcome Nemo this weekend?
Yeah, that's probably where the game will be won or lost this weekend, Dylan. It's a case of one of the best defences in the county against one of the best attacks. Just looking at the simple stats, Nemo have conceded just about 8 points per game, whereas Castlehaven have scored just about 16 points a game. So something has to give on Sunday. Castlehaven have that front three of the Hurley brothers and Collan. They also have a lovely mix of players bringing the ball up the field as well, like Collins, like Conor Collan, like Cathal Maguire, guys like this who are equally as talented. But Nemo are very stout in defence. They've got Brian Murphy back there. They've obviously got Micheál Martin in goals. So it'll be an interesting one that if Nemo can hold Castlehaven, I'd be expecting Nemo to do the business. But if Castlehaven can produce what they produced against St. Finbarr's, they have every opportunity, and I'd expect them to win out on Sunday if those forwards can fire.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll hear from Haulie O'Sullivan in just a little while as well on that Castlehaven team, and he's saying they're probably the form team going into the final as well. So it's a tantalising final we have in store. In this week's Southern Star as well, we hear from Nemo Rangers and Cork's Micheál A. Martin, who says that they're absolutely wary of the scope of Haven's threat as well. So all to play for this weekend. As I said there, the game throws in at 3 p.m. Before that, though, Bantry Blues are back in the Premier Intermediate final. They're taking on, I guess, what many people would say would have been favourites going into the whole championship at the start of the year, Martra. But Bantry are a great team in their own right. They have some great players. Obviously, there's Rory Dean there, and they have the extra fuel as well of the loss last year that is kind of fired them to the final anyway this year, and they've played really well to get this far as well.
Yeah, no, that should be a fantastic opening to the football proceedings on Sunday. As you mentioned, Martra have been hot favourites from the start of the tournament, and it's the same going into Sunday. A lot of people expecting Martra to pick up the silverware, but Bantry are a tough team as well. You know, they're not easily beaten, and as you mentioned, Rory Dean, if he turns it on, he could win the game easily on his own for Bantry. He's that kind of a player, and Haulie O'Sullivan will go into it a small bit more as well. But they also have the likes of Sean Larry there from Whiddy Island. We actually have a piece in the Star this week, an interview with him as well. Another talented footballer around the middle. But Bantry will be thereabouts towards the end of the game. Martra obviously have their couple of stars as well. Dan O'Donnell obviously standing out for them. But it should be an entertaining game of football, and you know, in terms of a day out in Pairc Uí Chaoimh with the Premier Intermediate and the Premier Senior, it's going to be a very interesting day for the big ball.
Absolutely. We're hoping a lot of people will get up to Cork for the final. It's also on Rebels Online, but if you can make it up to Cork, up to Pairc Uí Chaoimh, why wouldn't you? So we're going to take a quick break now. It's enough from us on these. We're going to hand it over to the expert in Haulie O'Sullivan. And Sean started off by asking him about Castlehaven's chances this weekend.
Right, I'm delighted to be joined now by our columnist with the Star, Haulie O'Sullivan. Haulie, how are you?
Very good, Sean.
And a big weekend of football ahead, Haulie. I suppose there's nowhere else to start but the big one, Haven and Nemo. Probably our first question is the confidence levels of the Haven. What will they be like going into their final clash now with the lads from the city?
Well, I suppose their confidence is bound to be high after beating the Bars in the semi-final. At the start of the season, the Bars would have been most people's fancy to win the county. They lost the final last year against Nemo, but the whole double thing seemed to quell their performance that day. And then Nemo in finals are a different animal, as we all know. But the Haven seem to be going better this year than they've been going in a few years. All their top players seem to be back in good form. Mark Collins had a slow start to the season, but is now playing very, very well again. Brian Hurley seems to be fully fit. Michael Hurley seems to be back to the form that he was in 3 or 4 years ago when he was playing with Cork. Jack Collan, you know, he's been out of the inter-county season, or the inter-county scene for the past 12 months maybe, and is a bit more rested and seems far sharper. And then they have a few new young lads, like Sean Brown and Jack O'Neill and Thomas O'Mahony, who'd be better known because he was with the under-20s. You know, they've come in and they seem to have really improved. So, look, I saw them against Ballincollig in the quarter-final. They played for a half. Gran could have been caught in the second half, really, but when it got tight again, they pushed on. And in the semi-final against the Bars, I'd say it was one of their most complete performances in a while.
Mm-hmm. And out of the two teams, who do you reckon is coming in with the most form, Nemo or the Haven?
Well, I think the Haven have been tested more than Nemo coming into the game. Grand, you could say Nemo had a tough game against Clan inside in Bandon, that very bad day when the game probably should have been played. And look, that was a test, but it was a different kind of a test. You know, the room for playing football that day was minimal. It was more of a battle more than anything else. But I think they haven't got a test against Ballincollig. No, they should have been out the gate. They got a test against the Bars. When again they should have been out the gate. They seem to, one thing that seems to be cropping a bit for them is the Ballincollig were fighting back into the game in the second half, and before they got their goal, they had 3 other goal chances. The Bars, didn't play to the same levels as we've seen them playing for the last few years in the semi-final, but were still within 2 points at the end because of goals. So that is a worry for them. But they seem to be transitioning the ball very quickly. They're playing with fierce aggression. The likes of Conor Callan, who has been playing hurling with the Bars and hurling with Cork and kind of jumping between the Haven and the Bars all season, is probably playing very, very good football as well. The best he's played in a while, and was very dominant against the Bars. Nemo, on the other hand, they're coming in as champions. They've beaten the Haven the last 2 times they've met them. They cruised through their group again on max points. Didn't get the semi-final spot. The Bars got that on score difference. Made very easy work again of getting to the final. Duhallow just didn't show on the day, so that's more what I mean than anything else about not having a semi-final test. Duhallow were very, very disappointing, but they were still dependent on the big players they've had now in a while, the likes of the Cronins and Jack O'Donovan around the middle and Conley up front. Kerrigan came off the bench. They don't seem to have the same quality of, let's say, 19 to 22-year-old that the Haven seem to have at the moment. Whether that will count for anything in the end or not remains to be seen.
I know you're speaking about the young fellas, but looking at some of the lads that have been around a few years now, and it's been 10 years since they won their last one, and there's 4 real big names for them. The 2 Hurley brothers, Brian and Mike, Mark Collins and Colin, Damien, that is.
Yeah.
How important will they be for the Haven now on Sunday?
I suppose if you go back to 2013, Brian Hurley was kind of the coming kid that time at whatever age he was, 21, 22. He did absolute wreck that day. I think he kicked 12 or 13 points, 5 or 6 from play. That experience, is worth a fortune. They've obviously played in finals since in 15 and 20. They haven't been there or thereabouts in almost every championship. But the fact that the 4 of those guys have that, that memory of beating Nemo in a county final, which very few have done. The last crew before Nemo, or before the Haven to beat them in 2013 was UCC back in 1999. So, they have such a phenomenal record of, I think it's 23 out of 27 finals. They'll be gone for 24 out of 28. That they seem to have the ability and have that tradition and history to get it right on the day of a final. But then the Haven are coming as the farm team by my reckoning, so it should make for a great battle.
Mm-hmm. And finally, as you mentioned it there, Nemo are the final specialists. So to get over the line, what do you think is key and vital for the Haven to bring the Andy Scannell back, West Cork?
Well, look, I suppose, both managers are going to be absolutely scrutinising each other's teams. And the 2 heavy-hitting forwards are going to be, on paper before the game, are going to be Luke Conley and Brian Hurley. Grant, in 13, Brian Hurley kicked 12 points, but in the drawn county final in 15, he didn't score in either game. And in 20, he was injured going into the game, but got 2 from play and 5 from frees. But look, if Brian Murphy can do, you would expect Brian Murphy to mark him. If he can do any kind of a reasonable job on him, and he gets the help, and you would expect, compared to the semi-final, the Bars left themselves very wide open at the back, and Michael Hurley, Jack Callan and Brian Hurley had a field day. I couldn't see Nemo leaving that same space there. Then at the other end, we all know what Candy can do. In the semi-final, he did his usual number of unusual things, let's say, but then when he got the chance, any sniff a goal, he got 2 goals to put the game out of sight, but with 0 effort. It'll be interesting to see will Kerrigan start or not. He played very well in the quarter-final, didn't get the start in the semi-final, but it'll be interesting to see will he start in the final. Then you look, they're very hard-working. They will shut down that space behind. They'll play with 1, 2, sometimes 3, depending on how the game is going up front. They're abrasive around the middle, but then it'll be interesting as well to see will Castlehaven put, let's say, Ronan Walsh, Mark Sherlock against the Bars. Will they go with Ronan Walsh and Luke Conley, or will they sacrifice someone like Rory Maguire to go back and mark Luke Conley, and then that takes away from their ability to transition. And look, the middle eight, same as any other game, is going to be absolutely huge. Who's hungrier, who's going to win the breaking ball, who's going to get their kick-outs away. All the basic stuff is going to matter most in the final.
Mm-hmm. No, and it should be a cracker. And in preparation for that final then, Haulie, we have an appetizer of the Premier Intermediate Football Championship final between Bantry and Martra. So a quick word on that. How do you think Bantry will get on? Do you reckon last year's final loss will be a bit of fuel for them? And do you reckon they'll be able to get over the line on Sunday?
I think Bantry's final loss last year, will be hugely beneficial to them, because they have the experience of playing in the final last year, even though they did lose to a very high quality Cantorp team on the same day. They've come through the championship well. They made a very good Kilshannig team in the semi-final. They have the O'Hendons and numerous other players who have played underage with Cork and would be a seasoned unit as well. They have, from last year, they have the two Casey brothers, Mike Casey in goal and Kevin Casey, back. They were out for Damien O'Neill's son, Jack O'Neill, is also back. He's playing centre back for them, so that's their +3 players from last year. I think the bookies have it that Martra are odds-on favourites. Bantry are 6-4, I think. Now, that probably comes from the fact that Martra have been playing Division 1 in the County League for the past 6-7 years and have been doing well there. They've reached Keller Shield finals and all that kind of stuff. Now, they also have the likes of Dan O'Deneen and Ty Corkery, who were carrying injuries during the Cork season early in the year, but seem to be back to their best form now. But I would say openly that if Rory Dean is in the mood and decides that he wants to run this show, Martra better watch out, because Rory Dean is a serious operator if he's fully fit and if he's ready to go. And they have other dangerous forwards as well. So look, I give Bantry a chance, definitely. I don't think it's as swayed or one-sided as the bookies are making it out to be. Bantry are coming in a great place. Very good coach in Davy O'Donovan. The players that came back in for them that weren't there last year are all first-team players, which will have improved their team. They will have that mental edge, maybe over Martra, having gone through the whole process of preparing for a final and building for a final that they had last year. Martra won't have had that. Martra might generally have a small more quality all over the pitch on paper, but look, it remains to be seen. But I would give Bantry a serious shout, because they are going to fight like dogs for this. They're a proud club. They'll want to get back up Senior A. They would have been very disappointed with being relegated a couple of years back.
No, they're right. Should be two fantastic finals. And finally, Haulie, just the news came through this week about Newcestown and Dohenys. Obviously, with Newcestown drawing their hurling final with Blarney. The game has been pushed back now a fortnight. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's a bit unusual to nearly refix a final 3 times now? And do you think that will be almost beneficial for Newcestown, or being a disadvantage for Dohenys? Or what way do you think it's played out?
My initial reaction, considering that Senior A doesn't go out into the Munster Club Championship, was that the replay of the hurling should have gone back and after the football. Because Dohenys obviously had their schedule and their training plan and their training schedule and all the rest of it made out. Look, it's incredible what Newcestown are doing. That they've drawn with Blarney in a county hurling final when they were complete underdogs and probably had chances to win it. But the fact that the replay is on the Saturday directly after, and it took the county board a little while then to decide that they were going to put the football back a week. You move 2 matches. Was there a need to move 2 matches? The hurling, I think, easily could have gone back until 2 weeks after the football, and it would have left the schedule pretty similar to what it was, rather than disrupting what the Dohenys were doing. But look, it'll probably go 1 or 2 ways for Newcestown. If they win the hurling, they'll be carrying absolutely huge momentum into the football, and they'll have that winning feeling and they'll have that huge belief. If they lose the hurling, then it might take them a little while to pick things back up and get ready for the football. But Dohenys are also in a fantastic spot. Granted, it's gone back a week, but it's only a case of reschedule what you're doing and put your final week preparations back a week, and it gives them an extra week to really hone in what they need to hone in on to get the better of Newcestown. But it should be a cracking game. If the day is dry, it will suit the Dohenys, because the quality of football they played in the semi-final was absolutely fantastic, and Fionn Hurley had an absolute field day. But you can be absolutely sure that Newcestown will be doing everything they can to shut down that space that those Dohenys forwards enjoyed in the semi-final. And if Hurley is held, there's going to be far more responsibility on the likes of Mark Buckley and Keith White to get those scores that will be needed to get them over the line. But look, a huge West Cork derby. We're guaranteed one cup coming west regardless. So, it's a toss of a coin, but if I was to pick one, I'd pick Dohenys on that.
No, it should be a fantastic clash, and obviously the 2 games on Sunday as well should be fantastic as well. And Haulie, listen, that's all the football talk we have for me this week. Appreciate you joining us here at Southern Star.
No problem, Sean. Thanks, bye.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Now, welcome back to the Star Sport podcast. And as we heard there at the end of Sean's chat with Haulie O'Sullivan, there's been a controversial situation, I guess, to say the least, with the reorganisation of the Newcestown Dohenys football final that was meant to be on November the 5th. It's been rescheduled to November either the 11th or 12th. We're recording this on Wednesday afternoon, so maybe by Thursday, I know the Cork County Board are hearing some appeals, especially in relation to Newcestown's red card at the end of their final against Blarney. So there might be some new information on that. But as we are recording, I guess there's a couple of points to make here. First of all, from Dohenys' point of view, they've been at pains to say that the episode has left a sour taste, but they have no issue with Newcestown or Blarney. So it's not a case of kind of clubs fighting with each other. It's more a case of Dohenys being disappointed at the fact that it's now been it will have been 5 weeks since their semi-final win over Knocknagree, and that was 4 weeks after their last group game. Now, obviously, they had a quarter-final bye there as well, which kind of contributed to that. But I guess, Sean, for those who don't know or those who aren't up to date with the situation, Newcestown and Blarney drew at the weekend in the hurling final. That meant that their game the replay has been scheduled for this weekend, and the Cork County Board, I guess their decision is to allow the clubs to have a fortnight between games. So Newcestown playing this weekend, it would only be a week then until the football final. So the decision was made to move the football final out by a week. A lot of people have been pointing out that perhaps it might have been a better decision or a decision that would make more sense for them to move the hurling instead.
No, definitely. You can see the anger from the Dohenys side. As you said there, the gaps they've had in between games. Like if anyone that's involved in GA or has an interest in GA or has played at any level, that kind of gap can be a hindrance to a team. You like to be playing games, even a couple of weeks apart is a perfect time frame, but the fact that they now have to wait another couple of weeks to play the football final is a hindrance on the field, and it's also a hindrance off the field. You have people who've booked flights home from all corners of the world, to see their club play in a county final for the first time in 17 years. So you can see the anger from the Dohenys side. Obviously, as you mentioned, it's not an issue between clubs. It's purely Dohenys' issue is with the county board. And you got to think like Cork people will always be talking about hurling and football, and there's always the debate saying that the hurlers get a bit more grace from the county board, and hurling is always kind of put more forward than the football. And it's kind of evident here again, that the football is being almost put to the back hand, and the hurling is given the prominence. But Blarney would be playing 3 weeks in a row. Newcestown wouldn't mind the game being pushed back. people have holidays booked. Some players are going away. We know Sean Daly there, the fullback from Dohenys. He was meant to be emigrating. He's going to have to change that back. People coming from Australia, who's going to be reimbursing them? It's a mess. And the county board pretty much jumped to a conclusion too early. They should have taken a deep breath, relaxed, look at all possibilities, and then made their idea. But to play it 6 days after, it's a bit of a farce now at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, obviously the game at the weekend shouldn't be put on the back burner either. It was a cracking game between Blarney and Newcestown. 116 for Blarney, 19 points for Newcestown. And again, I guess a word there on just the sheer determination in this Newcestown side, because they were, after 24 minutes, they were 5 to 7 points behind, and they spent a lot of the game kind of trying to reel in Blarney, and Blarney would have been many people's favourites going into the game, and they showed point after point they scored that they were well in the game, and they had their chances to win it as well. So how do you think they'll be feeling going into this weekend's final?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Obviously, anybody who watched the game knows how it finished and how it came down to a sideline from Mark Coleman. Anybody that was watching on Rebels Online or anybody who was at the game was unaware until afterwards that the referee had notified Coleman that his sideline cut was the final play. So what happened and transpired with Cathal Hegarty having the ball in the net was irrelevant, as Coleman had to put it over from the sideline. But I suppose both teams will be happy to be still in it. Both could have won it. Obviously with the goal at the end for Blarney, but Trevor Horgan had a point for Newcestown that put him into the lead in extra time. But both teams will have another crack at it. It'll be just a case of who recovers the best over the next couple of days and who shows up again on Saturday.
Yeah, we have a report on last weekend's final in this week's Southern Star out on Thursday, and we're also taking a look ahead. Noel Horgan has a look at this weekend's final, so that's taking place at 5 p.m. on Saturday. Just a small note there as well. Like I said, we're recording this on Wednesday. Newcestown are hoping that an appeal against Richard O'Sullivan's red card in the drawn game can be overturned. It's believed that the hearings are due to take place at Pairc Uí Chaoimh on Thursday night, so we're not aware of the outcome of that. But we have a note on that in this week's paper as well. Lots to talk about there. We could probably talk about it all day, Sean, but we do need to move on, and we'll move on now. I guess kind of full exposure or full to let the listeners know you're kind of part of the next story here. The Barry Row footballers, they're back in the big time. They're after a 20-year gap, they're back in the Carbery Junior A football final. And you had a good victory over Ballinascarthy in the semi-final. Again, a quick turnaround, but you must be delighted to make it into the final.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. First Junior A final now for the club in 20 years. Our last one was 2003. We've never won it, so it'll be a nice one to win. Obviously, we came through an absolute epic battle against Ballinascarthy. I had a great time for all the Ballinascarthy lads. We went to school with them. Fellas be on the same school teams. Carbery teams with each other. Be going out on the weekends with them. So they're a great bunch of lads. And to be fair to them, they gave us a right good battle. It came down to extra time, and we probably pulled away from a small bit. But that's probably testament to the fitness work we've done with our coaches this year to have us ready and able for that. But one of the most interesting things for anyone that was at the game, you could probably make an assumption or compare it to American football right at the end. Ballinascarthy got a free deep into added time on the 45, and we were 1 point up. And they brought on their usual free taker, Cillian Culnan. Cillian has had a few injuries in the past, so he wasn't able to start. But he'd be their normal free taker, and Cillian was brought on specifically for a free, like you'd bring on a kicker at the end of an American football game. And to his credit, he kicked a massive score that brought the game to extra time. It was something incredibly unique, and fair play to him. But we just got over in the end. We just probably had that extra bit of legs. But now it's Kilmacabea on Friday. They're the kingpins of West Cork. We're under no illusions that we're in for an absolutely monumental battle. This is their 5th final now in 8 years. So they've been there, they've done that. We're the new kids in the block. We're going in as underdogs. We just, we need to knuckle down, try and stay with them. It's going to be a tough task. Hopefully we're up to it. I was only talking with the lads a couple of days ago how far we've come. It was only 4 or 5 years ago that we were in Division 3 of the Football League, and we were actually playing Kilmacabea's second team, and they brought about 40 lads down to Barryroe, where their first team trained on the top pitch, and their second team beat the brakes off us down in the main pitch. So it's a case of, we're going to have to put our shoulder to the wheel. It's going to be a long, hard 60 minutes. I'd expect it to be a very close game. We're under no illusions what a monumental task is ahead of us, but it would be fantastic to come out the right side of it on Friday night.
Absolutely. And if people want to go and see that game, where is it on? What time?
The game is on at 8 o'clock in Dunmanway on Friday night.
Great stuff. And you can read more, as we've been saying, in this week's Southern Star. We have reports from both semi-finals and a look ahead at the final there as well. So a big weekend of GAA ahead. We're going to take a very quick break now, and we'll be back then. Just have a look at what's in this week's Southern Star. Welcome back to the Star Sport podcast, and it's everybody's favourite time of the week as we take a very quick look ahead at what's in this week's Star Sport. As we've been saying throughout the podcast, it's GAA heavy as we are looking ahead to plenty of West Cork finals, or teams from West Cork involved in finals. Haulie O'Sullivan, we spoke to him earlier, but in this week's paper, he's looking in more detail at the Castlehaven Nemo Rangers final, giving his opinions there and saying how Castlehaven can overcome a Nemo Rangers side who have a brilliant record in finals. There's also Tom Lyons takes a look at the players who created history for Skibbereen in 1993 as the Rasa Heroes. They're reuniting for a 30th anniversary of their All-Ireland triumph. There's a great look back on that victory in 1993 in this week's Star as well. We have previews of the Newcestown Blarney hurling final, of Castlehaven Nemo Rangers, like I said, of Bantry Blues against Kilnamatra, of Barryroe and Kilmacabea. So it's absolutely packed full of GAA. Elsewhere, we have our latest from Derby, where Conor Howrahan is helping the Rams recover after some heated post-match confrontation with fans over there. So things haven't been going great, but they're doing well in recent weeks after that confrontation. There's also the latest West Cork soccer news from Ger McCarthy, and a very interesting piece there on why there is no West Cork Academy schoolgirls teams this season, despite the fact that there has been an increase in the number of teams playing in West Cork. So zero representation there, which is disappointing. We also have the latest, as always, in road bowling and motorsport, as well as Bantry host a thrilling finale at the weekend. That's all in this week's Southern Star Sport. There's loads more there as well, alongside the main section of the newspaper. So that'll be in shops and online from Thursday morning. And as always, if you're further afield, you can subscribe to the Southern Star and get it on your laptop, tablet or phone. Just head to subscribe.southernstar.ie, enter your details, and you'll get an exact replica of the newspaper for less than €2 per week. As always, thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast, and thanks again to our sponsors at Access Credit Union. If you've enjoyed this, please remember to rate, review and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll be back again next week. Thanks for listening.